Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Steve Rasner, and welcome to the LionHearted Dental Podcast. Do you guys remember back in the beginning of the podcast? I'm taking you back to 2018 when I used to do it in my kitchen, and I would come up with subjects, uh, really subjects that impacted me that week or sometimes that day. And on occasion, I did what became known as the Rasner Rant. Remember it? Good, because you're going to get one tonight. And so I thought about not doing it, but I'm going to do one because they're always based on things that happen to me because I'm very much on the front lines still. So here's how it goes. You know, in my career, there have been legends of consultants that have become very famous in dentistry. I heard many of them myself at large conventions. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to indict every major dental consultant that's ever been in dentistry. There's many that can help your practice. But many of them never sat in an operatory chair. Many of them never owned a dental practice, or if they did, it was many years ago. Why am I telling you this? I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you this. I had a 10-day vacation this past summer. So I was off from like the 8th, I don't know, I think it was August to the 18th. That's 10 days. And I came back in on the 19th. By 11 o'clock that morning, I start at 9. Join me on October 18th and 19th for 2+ days of inspiration and real business training. This is the course that changes everything. Attendance is limited. Register now. Whatever benefit I had attained by laying on a beach or doing whatever I do that's we'd all consider relaxing was gone. Why? Because long-term success in dentistry, in fact, in any business, is determined by your vigilance, by how much you are looking at where your business is, and in our case, where your practice is. And look, I didn't come back from vacation wanting to cause problems. In fact, I don't come in any Monday morning wanting to be pointing fingers or this is not. I actually want to be happy, which I am most of the time. Here's the problem. How successful you are is often determined by how vigilant you are. Like, what are you willing to look at, not like, and then not discuss with your team? Let me give you an example. That day, I walked past a room, one of my operatories, and there was the next patient, the room had been turned over. The next patient was in the room. And I was quite busy, as I usually am. And I saw visible things on the floor. I believe it was alginate. Now, let me make it clear. The person in my world for the last 7-8 months that has that position is one of my favorite staff members of all my 20 staff members. So this isn't about you. Because a lot of us walk past all the operatory rooms. Am I the only one that can see? Am I the only one that has eyes that looks down and sees something? I am sure somebody else saw that besides me. Am I making a big deal out of this? Bigger than it needs to be? Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you were in a hospital and walked into an operatory for an operation or was wheeled in and you saw something on the floor that didn't belong there? I think your standard of care should be absolutely as high as a hospital is. And you know what? You can't really apologize for that. What are you going to say? Hey, I'm sorry, patient. So what did I do? I signaled to somebody that we didn't even say anything. They just swept it out and we continued. But that's just one example of the vigilance required that, I must go past. So in my office, the reception room and the entrance to the main office is separated by doors that have glass. I bet you 3 to 4 times a day. Remember, folks, this is a rant, so I'm not done. I must go by those doors that are made of glass 3 to 4 times a day, and it's as if a child took his hand and put it on something and then put it against my window. And so I walk past the front desk, past those glass doors, down back toward the clinic, because that's how my days are. I'm in clinic for maybe 2 to 3 hours at a time doing a surgery. I come up for air. I sit at this very desk and have a coffee or water or whatever it is, walk back down. And as I'm walking around the glass, I see things. And they'll often hear me say, will somebody take Windex to the glass doors? And onward. Does that break my spirit? Does that wreck? No, but it is something I've talked about multitude of times. You know why? Because this practice, like many of your practice, as you know from listening to me, is a fee-for-service practice. That means that patients pay more for their dental care to come here than they do down the street. And you know what's included in that for me? Walt Disney Clean. And it's not Walt Disney Clean when my restroom doesn't look the way it needs to, where everything doesn't look Walt Disney Clean. And that requires a contribution by everyone, not one person in your office. Everyone has to care at that level, whether it's their job or not. I care at that level, and I'm the main clinician here. So I don't care if you're in insurance in your office, or you're the one that turns the room over, or you're a hygienist. Everybody needs to care about that. So the next rant that's on my list for this week is an oldie but goodie. Starts with an A. What do you think it is? It's accountability. That's what it is. And you know what? I don't know who's watching me right now, whether it's the team or whether it's the doctor or both. But I can tell you this. Every owner doesn't care if staff members actually make mistakes, because we all do. Everybody does. I do. The owners do. What we do care about is a lack of accountability. So when something happens, all your boss wants to hear is, geez, we did go over that in a staff meeting. Oh, I knew better. I will be better at it going forward. So what am I talking about? Why is that a big deal? So I saw a patient that I hadn't seen in 5 years, and she's a patient that I often refer to in my live presentations as somebody in the cloud. And you need a very large cloud above you of patients. That's how you endure long periods of success, because there's 3 types of patients in the cloud. Here's who they are. Number 1, you have Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green's that patient that does everything you recommend. She never breaks an appointment. She shows up every 6 months, probably has come to you for 20 plus years and never missed an appointment. If you recommend a crown, she does a crown. If you recommend a root canal, she does a root canal. She is terrific. So what's the problem? There's not many Mrs. Greens out there. That's the problem. So that cloud has those A patients that you just love. We all have them. We just don't have enough of them. The next one you have is Mr. Brown. So who's Mr. Brown? He's a patient that you have done treatment plans on in your career, but he comes in and out of dentistry. In fact, I used to think that they left me, and they left me for good, because I always thought, because I've never been bashful about charging for excellence, because we work really hard here collectively to collaborate to provide excellence for our patients in the oral health arena. So I don't think you should be shy about that. It's a hard quality to maintain. In fact, it's what this is all about. It's what the LionHearted Podcast is about. So Mr. Brown accepts an implant or a 3-unit bridge or quadrant scaling root planing. And maybe he'll come around for 2 years and then he's gone. And then he comes back 2 years later. Sometimes he comes back 5 years later, like the patient I referred to at the beginning of this talk. So that's number 2. Sometimes, by the way, I found out that Mr. Brown did leave me. Okay? He went to another practice that accepts his insurance. But he always comes back to you and to me for the big stuff. Why? Because he trusts us. And that's a good thing. And number 3 in the cloud is the patient that never accepted anything you did. That's right. You presented full mouth rehab. You presented whatever it was, a simple treatment plan. And they left and never made a commitment. But guess what's interesting about this type of patient? They refer us patients because when they left your practice, the day they did not accept your treatment plan, you still did it in such a way, by the way I try to teach, that it left a good taste in the patient's mouth. They didn't look at you as pushy, trying to upsell them, anything like that. They looked at you as a dental office that believes in comprehensive care, and it just wasn't for them at that particular time in their lives. I can't tell you how many patients I've had referred to me by patients that do not come to me, but came to me once. Sometimes that patient dials back around. That is who is up in the cloud. So how do you do that? You have a goal. Every day, your goal, in my opinion, is like a Broadway play. And that goal is everyone that comes in here today, whether it's for hygiene, whether it's for clinical dentistry, a consult, a new patient visit, needs to leave feeling great about the entire office. In other words, if they had insurance in your insurance office, that you gave them accurate information, that whether it's, I don't even know what that is anymore, because I haven't been insurance for many years. But if it's a deductible, that they knew and it was accurate, because you have an accurate staff member heading up your insurance division. That's important stuff. That they were greeted by a front desk member that made them feel value, not the one that's sitting there saying, take a seat, I'll be with you in a minute. That doesn't work. They can get that anywhere. Okay? And then they were brought back into the operatories in a timely manner, that they looked around and it felt Walt Disney clean. And they were escorted back up to the front desk, and the whole thing felt right, whether they accepted treatment or not, if they were a new patient or if they were coming out of hygiene. That's the goal every day. And I'm not going to kid you. It's not easy to get there every day. There's going to be moments when you follow this path of a lion-hearted office. There's going to be times where you say to yourself, I'm there. I know I'm there. And that's going to be followed by times when you say, no, I'm not. And you're going to be disappointed. And there's many of those times, because that is what the whole thing's about. It's about an ongoing effort by your entire team to create a culture in your office that is palpably different for these patients that have gone to other offices their whole career. They know that yours is different. They know that yours is the best. And that is not easy to achieve. That's okay. If your goal every day is to achieve it, you're going to be fine. I promise you. What's fine? Long-term success. That's what it is. You know, a lot of doctors ask me, how do you motivate that team of yours and keep them for, at one point, it was average of 20.2 years. So 18 staff members, if you added up all their years, have been with me 18.2 years. How do you do it? Well, there's a lot of philosophies on that. If you go online and Google how do you motivate teams, almost everything you'll hear is not true, in my opinion. You want to make it real simple? I'm going to help you make it simple. Here's how you motivate your team. Number one, try always to hire like-minded staff members. So when you're in that interview and it's time for you to add a staff member, think to yourself, the best you're able to discern, what kind of personality does that candidate have? And would that mix with your folks? Would that mix with your team? Number 2, keep your word. If you tell somebody you're going to meet with them, if you promise them that they're going to be at this rate for 90 days and then you'll reassess and meet with them, then you have to meet with them. Just because they don't come up to you and say, hey, it's been 90 days, doesn't make it right for you not to keep your word, right? That's number 2. Number 3, be flexible. So a lot of times in running an office, we run into staff members that have different requests. They want to start going to night school because they want to better themselves, right? They want to coach their child's soccer team. They want to take online classes, whatever it is. They want to improve themselves and start going to take yoga classes, whatever, it doesn't matter. Before you say no, because sometimes it's obvious that it's going to make your functioning of your office prior to this request harder than it used to be, right? And it's easy to say no. I'm telling you that if you find that staff member has demonstrated qualities and traits that you really covet, be flexible. 3 months is going to be past, and they're going to think twice 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now when maybe they're thinking of moving on from your office. Does it always work? No. Who cares? It's a great way to be recognized by your community as a boss. The third one is be available. Staff members sometimes need one-on-one with you, and it's an opportunity for you to connect with this staff member who maybe you don't even get to talk to for the last month because it just hasn't happened, right? Being available creates loyalty. It makes you never get too big that you can't sit down with your staff member one-to-one. I think another motivating quality as a owner of a practice is for you to be flexible with staff members that have earned that right for you to be flexible with them. I'm not talking about somebody that's been with you for 2 months and starts to ask for a change in their hours. No, I'm talking about somebody that's with you for years and maybe they want to go. There's lots of things that happen in your staff's life. Mom stuff, right? Coaching, CE training, night school, whatever it is. It's easy for you to turn it down because it inconveniences you as an office owner. I get it. You want your staff to stay around for a long time? Be as flexible as you can. I'm going to give you one more gem to make this your best year ever. You ready for it? Fire the vampire in your office. Oh, I know this is a hard one. I'm talking about the person in your office that never participates in anything. I'm talking about the one that runs hot and cold, sometimes in the same hour. They feed on negativity. They shoot down new ideas. They drain your morale. In fact, they have the ability, and you know this is true, to alter your physiology. In other words, just by looking at them on Monday morning can elevate your blood pressure. Not good for you, doctor, and not good for the rest of your team as well. Often, this vampire comes from a practice that you purchased, don't they? In other words, they came with the practice. They probably were with that practice for 30 years, and they know more about the practice than you do. So it's very uncomfortable for you to move on. The vampire does have a unique skill set. They are very good at bringing everybody in the office down to their level of unhappiness. And it's very easy for you as a busy doctor to not make this a priority. Make it a priority, and you'll have a better year this year. I promise you. Join me on October 18th and 19th for 2+ days of inspiration and real business training. This is the course that changes everything. Attendance is limited. Register now.